Get any camera.
Everybody knows what it's to there? Okay.
We are ready.
You wanna switch the camera? So you're recording now?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to call the Village Board and Plan Commission meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, March 13th. It is 6:05 p.m. at the Vernon Village Hall. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and we'll recite it. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Ray Calder, Administrator Clerk, would you please read the roll call and open meeting compliance?
President Chu.
I'm here.
Trustee Slaney.
Present.
Trustee Finch.
Here.
Trustee Newman.
Here.
Trustee Millies.
Here.
Commissioner Alex.
Here.
Commissioner Nowak and Commissioner Rinaldi are excused absent, and this meeting is noticed and posted according to law.
I just wanted to state we do have a quorum of the Plan Commission, 3 out of the 5 right here, and the full board. The first agenda item we have is a public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Village of Vernon will have a public hearing with the Village Board and Plan Commission on Wednesday, March 13, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Village Hall. To consider the request of Jeff Millies for the property owned by Edgewood Golf Course Incorporated and Edgewood North LLC located at W240 South 9950 Castle Road in the Village of Vernon. The property is located on the north side of County Trunk Highway L or Forest Run Avenue from W240 South 9950 Castle Road, identified as property tax key number VNT 2124999, 2119999, 2117996, 21779960001, 2120997, 2118997, and 2121038 for the issuance of the Village of Vernon conditional use permit to allow section 322(a)(d) of the Village of Vernon Code of Ordinances for the continuation and modification of the conditional use permit previously issued by Waukesha County and the town of Vernon for golf course and other accessory uses. Before we start the public hearing, I just wanted to let everyone know what's going to happen is, Jeff, are you going to take the seat up here? What's going to happen is our planner and zoning administrator, Sean Malarkey, is going to give a brief overview of what the petitioners are asking for, and then we'll ask the petitioner if there's anything that our zoning and planning administrator have missed. We'll take comments from our petitioner. Then we'll open it up to the public for comments, and then we'll open it to the Plan Commission and Village Board for comments. We'll go back to the public for additional comments, back to the Board for Plan Commission for additional comments, and we just ask that any comments that you're making, if you could address them to the Board, and then depending on the questions, we'll handle those and there'll be public comments again. So with that, I'd like to ask Sean Malarkey, our Zoning and Planning Administrator, to give an overview of the request before us now. Sean?
Yeah, thanks. Essentially, what's being requested here by the petitioner is the expansion of one of the buildings on site. There's an existing pavilion that measures 40 feet by 76 feet. They're looking to do an addition to that pavilion that's going to measure 40 feet by 56 feet for essentially used for outdoor seating, for larger golf outings, and used for golf cart storage in the winter. So that's one of the requested changes. The other requested change is the future construction of a 24 by 24 foot restroom facility on the golf course to eliminate portable toilets. The petitioner has provided detailed site plan information regarding the pavilion extension, but the restroom facility is more conceptual in nature. The application shows a general location for it, but They will return at a later date to provide specifics on the bathroom facilities, and that would be approved through site plan of operation only if it's approved as presented tonight in concept as part of the CU. So another public hearing wouldn't have to be held for that restroom facility if it's approved as presented tonight. So that's what's being requested. That's essentially it. My staff report does go into some of the history here. This again was permitted through Waukesha County before Vernon had its own zoning ordinance. So starting in 1966, the first conditional use permit for the southeastern portion of the property, the golf course was, the 18-hole course there was permitted. The conditional use was modified over the years for expansion, for the property to the northwest, which was part of a PUD, that was permitted there. So what's being asked today is essentially taking all the conditions that were allowed in the past, bringing them into a new village conditional use permit, since we now have our own zoning, with the additional changes that I mentioned at the start. It's basically village policy. We can't amend a county CU. So now that we're a village, we have to issue our own conditional use permit. And our current zoning ordinance doesn't have a provision for golf courses as a conditional use in it. However, there's a clause that essentially says if it's been repealed or it was enacted at the time, or there's a conditional use that's grandfathered in, we can modify that conditional use permit as if it was in the books today. And so we'd be looking to modify it according to what's in Waukesha County's ordinance today. And so I have listed in my staff report the current regulations for golf courses for Waukesha County, and essentially it's pretty simple for their specific conditional use considerations. It's location, building, site plans have to be submitted for approval. Can't happen on less than 3 acres in size. No building to be closer than 50 feet to the lot lines. Off-street parking has to be approved by the planning commission, and anything that includes a commercial facility such as a bar, restaurant, or arcade has to be explicitly authorized in the permit. So all that is met. There's nothing there that's a surprise or that couldn't be met with the current ordinance. And then the village also has a number of general standards for conditional uses, that the use can't violate the spirit or intent of the comprehensive plan of the code, can't be contrary to the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community, and cannot be hazardous, harmful, noxious, offensive, or nuisance to the community. So those are the factors that you have to consider as part of this. I will say that the proposed expansion of the pavilion does meet the zoning ordinances in terms of setbacks and so on, so that isn't an issue. I did want to point out that the property on the southeast, the golf course in the southeast portion, is comprised of multiple parcels, which is unusual. There's some existing buildings there, a couple of buildings that actually straddle the property lines, and so sometimes when someone comes forward for a conditional use or site plan of operation, it would be up to the planning commission and board as to whether to require the properties to be combined at that particular period of time. That's up to you. I will mention that the petitioner did have as part of his plans maybe a potential expansion to one of the lean-to, I think it's a golf cart storage facility at some point in the future. That would, because there's a lot line that goes through the middle of the building, that would require a combination of lots to happen at that time by CSM for at least those 2 parcels. And it would be up to the planning commission as to whether the rest of the parcels would be combined at that time. So that might be nice for the petitioner to get some feedback on whether that would be required for all the parcels to be combined at that time, or whether it could just be those 2 parcels. So stormwater management, there's no new impervious surface, there's very little impervious surface being added here as part of this, and Waukesha County, who does stormwater permitting, has stated that there's no approvals necessary for the proposed expansion. So in my recommended conditions, I do list the plan of operation as it exists today with the requested improvements, the pavilion addition, the 2240 square feet addition to that, and then the future restroom facility with the exact location and details to be approved at a later date through site plan of operation review. And there's also one other condition that I added that isn't a standard condition, and that's essentially one of the properties that that Edgewood Golf Course Inc. owns. There's a little triangle property that's got a house and some farming on it. But that's part of the holdings. I do, under condition number 3, that would essentially be excluded from this conditional use permit, even though they own that. It's got nothing to do with the golf course at this time, and so that would be excluded from the conditional use permit. Otherwise, the property on the north side of the road and all the properties in the south side of the road will be combined under this new conditional use permit. So that's all I have for background.
Plan Commissioner Board, if you don't mind, Sean, the last thing you said condition number 3?
Condition 3 is the property with tax key VNT 2118997 is excluded from the conditional use approval.
Okay,
So that was part of the notice, that's part of their total holdings, but that would be excluded from the conditional use approval.
okay. Does everybody got that? Okay. Thank you, Sean. Jeff, Mr. Millies, is there anything you'd like to add that Sean might not have covered in his explanation and overview of your request?
No, he covered everything very well, and I just say we put that bathroom in there to avoid a future hearing at a later time. There's really no plans at this present time to start building that right in the near future.
It's a future project then?
It'd be nice to have one back there, yes.
Sounds good. Jeff, do you want to, if you don't have any more questions, if you'd like to take a seat right there, and then we're going to open it up to public comments. Are there any public comments? From the public, any public comments? There's no public comments. Public comments from the Plan Commissioner of the Board. And I just wanted to explain, as our planner stated, anyone that has had a conditional use and is requesting any type of change, we're making all those people come forward and do a village conditional use. We have many of them out there that are still under the county, and the commission board are working on that also. So if you don't see a lot of questions, it's become, number one, they're kind of used to doing this. Number two, our planner information that Sean provides is outstanding. Our legal comments also. So I will ask.
Yeah, I guess I would just ask if there's any comments on combination of the lots for the southern portion in the future. If it's required, it'll certainly be required if a building straddles the lot lines and you want to expand it. But is there any thought in terms of whether or not you require everything to be combined? There's certainly no requirement to do so. Someday it might be nice to clean up, but it's not necessary. So if you provide comment to the petitioner or not, that's up to you.
I know Morningstar has the other golf course has the same situation, where they've got, I believe it's their patio on 2 different, and that wasn't combined either, but is there any feelings from the board or plan commission?
Yeah, I personally would like to see them all combined, except for that one that's really not part of the golf course. But I don't see any reason that we have to do it now, especially since now we have to revisit that in the future.
Someday. I agree, someday.
You know, we shouldn't leave any structure on a property line.
Yeah, that ever got approved.
I tried looking if we could find the old GIS mapping. I don't remember that property line ever being there. So I don't know when
When it got divided?
How much over is it, Sean?
Well, it's basically, it's almost right down the middle of one of those, a small shed and then
another pole built, our maintenance.
Well, remember when the county did that they remonumented the entire county, but I've never heard there. But who knows? You know what, we should talk to the county, because when Claude Johnson, they remonumented the entire county, and there are, some issues with that.
I remember a few years back when we were arguing property tax assessed value, dealing with Cal Magnum. He asked about if we wanted to keep the farmhouse on its own section or combine it, and we said no, we'll leave it, a separate parcel. But I don't remember ever being in the whole 14 acres. That got the driving range, half their maintenance building, shop.
Actually, Jeff wanted to come up here. And I should say, when Jeff asked, when we knew he was coming, I did contact the county and ask the planner today for any of the CU permits, because some of them are pretty old, and we just wanted to make sure that we had a good trail of all the CUs that were approved by the town and county. I mean, the county is the all.
Yeah, it goes back to 1966, so there's quite a few amendments over the years.
I was shocked too when Sean said that, but I agree with Jim too. Someday it would be nice, but I don't see there any
Well, I
urgent
know
need.
the property on the third nine, which was Jacoby's property,
Mhm.
they had that 3 acres separated, 'cause they wanted to build a house back in that corner someday. So we bought it like that, where there's 2 separate properties, and it just never got, I mean, you can't even access it to build a house at that time, so I don't know why it's never got combined, you know, that one at least.
And I remember when the Kleins did their subdivision and your family bought a part of their farm to expand the golf course. But
Yeah,
that,
that was in a combination, so they could do the smaller acre lots
Right.
and put the rest in golf course then.
yeah, they did a PUD there.
And we also had to buy the Boss's farm too, to have enough land.
And there's their relatives right there.
My 2 cents would be, in having a similar situation in Muskego, just asking whether a full-blown CSM is required, or, and we dealt with this with our property too, but as far as combining tax keys, when it's the same owner and all you're doing is erasing interior lot lines, and I can look to see what that process is, but I think, for certain circumstances, getting into the full-blown CSM, it's not cheap.
Right.
And then it has a lot more, strings attached to it as far as wetland delineations and those types of things. So I'll pose that to you. Do you deal with that in any of your other municipalities as options for combining tax keys?
Sometimes that happens, but when you do that, it doesn't actually get rid of the lot line. So it doesn't allow you to build a building addition over the top of it. I mean, for tax purposes, it looks like one lot, but that lot line still exists, and you can't build on the top of the lot line. So it wouldn't solve this problem for a future addition of a cart farm.
Yeah, well, I don't know how that was ever allowed to begin with to build them there. So I'm just wondering if
Some-
that lot line showed up when Cal Magna was,
I
Doing
think,
a property.
I think the county at some point in time, and I've come across this a few times, where there's been exceptions somehow granted or waivers granted that allow, if it's everything's under common ownership, that they've allowed structures to be built over the top of lot lines. I've seen it before, so it's not super unusual.
And wouldn't you think that building would have existed before the county actually did? Because they didn't start zoning till 59
Well, this was 66
for the
when.
CU, but was the building there, was the building?
there was another dairy barn where the one barn is now.
Mhm,
So that dairy barn at that time had to be split down the middle too.
yeah. Well, before zoning wouldn't have mattered then, but.
Right, right. That would have definitely been there before. And we could look on, the other thing too is the Maney farm, where they had the golf range. We moved the lot line there also. We could look, it wasn't John Maney's, but it was Tanya, Maney and Jim, and we moved there. They had an issue with the lot line, but
I mean, I guess the bottom line is that the lot line's there unless you can prove it's not there. And so, any expansion of that building, you gotta at least combine those lots to do that.
There's a dairy barn on Kelsey around the corner from the main farm that half of it is in Vernon, half of it is in Muskego.
really,
Yeah. I don't know how that ever happened either, but.
A long time.
yeah.
Right.
Good
Yep.
spot for a barn, let's build it here, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know part of Muskego, when there was a greater area, Muskego was in Vernon. That's what I was told years ago. I don't know. I'm not that old. I'm pretty old, but not that old.
A portion of Muskego was actually in the town of.
Before it was a city, yeah. I don't know. You're going back a long time. But I just wondered, those barns, I'm sure they existed before the county adopted zoning in 59, so. Maybe they're conforming then, but, well, we'll find out, Jeff. But I don't know, I know Jim had expressed his opinion. Mike, or I know you said it wasn't an issue at this time. Dylan or
I have
Gary?
no opposition to anything.
You're such a nice guy, Dylan. Gary, any thoughts? You have any concern? Do you feel it's necessary to do the full CSN at this time?
No.
Okay. Well then, Sean, you got your answer there. So what I'd like to do, Jeff, if you don't mind, is there any other comments from the public?
I have another question, just regarding, I saw that there was like a highlighted indoor-outdoor music kind of back and forth discussion. Is that the 7 p.m. till 1 a.m., is that from the original Waukesha language that carried over? It just seemed odd for me to see a 7 p.m. start time. If you have a golf outing that's done at 5, you might want to start music at 5:30. Is that time constraint? I mean, there haven't been issues, but I just don't want to see a 7 o'clock in here and then it's 5:30 and...
Well, originally, when that clubhouse was built, it was to help also do banquets and weddings.
Right, that
That's
was
why
part of
they
the
had-
approval, yeah.
That's why it was approved at that time. Since then, there's only been a handful of occasions where we've had music, both inside and outside, throughout the years.
And we did check with the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department, and there's no complaints, you know, for whatever, I mean, there's no complaints at all on your course. Is that something that you want to stick with the 7 till 1 p.m.?
I guess earlier it
1 a.m.
might be nice.
What,
but,
yeah, 1 a.m.
I mean, like you say, if you have some outing that's done planned by 5 o'clock and they want to have some entertainment or something.
Or dinner music, or would there be any objection? Sean, can you do that?
I don't know. I mean, it's a kind of a legal question because what was proposed was what was proposed, and we would be, and the public hearing was noticed for that application, and so we're not getting more strict, we're getting more lenient on it, so maybe not.
We can leave it alone for now instead of...
It hasn't been a problem for how many years? I don't know
Yeah,
if it's been a new problem, it could always be revisited.
If they come back to redo the,
Here, can you talk into your microphone?
no, sorry. If they come back to redo the CSM in one
Oh,
operate, you can do it then, so.
Well, and it's not like you're adding an extra 2 hours on the back end of it, you're adding it on the front end. I mean.
that would be on the site plan of operation also, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, we allow modifications to be made if it's deemed to be minor in nature, so that could happen at any point.
Right. And I would agree with Dylan, it'd be worth it till 2 in the morning,
Yeah,
especially when the bars close at 2.
the difference between 5 and 7 to me is pretty minor. The difference between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. would be
Right.
something where
Yeah.
Yeah.
a discussion would have to take place.
Nothing I'm too concerned about this time.
Okay, any other comments from Plan Commissioner Board? There are none. Any comments from the public? Any comments at all from the public? There are none. What's that mean?
She said no rap.
No rap. Well, if
We
there's
could
no,
probably hear it.
Jeff, did you want to add anything?
No, that should cover it up.
Okay, since there's no further comments from the public or from the Village Board or Plan Commission, I'm going to close the public hearing and move on to our next agenda item. This would be the discussion and possible action on the request as stated in the public notice. Thank you. You can stay for the whole meeting if you wanted.
We could, but how's this business?
Okay. Thank you so much. At this point, we're on, I wanted the village board, we're on the plan commission action, but obviously if there's any questions or comments from the village board, as Sean stated in his planner comments, if the plan commission recommends approval to the village board of the conditional use permit, Sean, once again, it's all 14, or are we scratching, would it be 12 comments? Because you said we should take 3 out.
No, 3 should stay. I just wanted to point 3 out that
Oh,
was
okay.
excluding one of the parcels. I guess the one thing I would like the Plan Commission and Board to consider is just our general conditional use considerations, the ones I mentioned about violating the spirit of intent, be contrary to public health, is just to make sure that what's being proposed and the new CU does not do that, because those are essentially the findings. So that's on page 3 under number 3A.
Scooting there now. Okay, before, as our planning and zoning administrator indicated, I know you're typically used to doing this, but I just wanted to ask, this is just plan commission, right, Sean?
For a recommendation of the board, right?
On the waiver?
No waiver.
You said page 3, I'm at page 3.
Page 3, the criteria for general conditional use considerations, whether or not it violates the spirit of intent,
Oh, okay.
whether it's contrary to public health, safety,
Oh, I
and
see that.
welfare, and whether it's hazardous, harmful,
So do you want me to
noxious, offensive.
pose those questions to the plan commission?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just posed them. Do you feel what's being asked, the conditional use permit, and what the changes are, does it violate any of those things?
Is there any?
Is there any issues with those?
I'm seeing no from Mike, please. Can I ask the village board too, or is it just plan commission?
Both.
Both? Village board, do you have any, do you feel it violates?
Nope.
And then, would it be contrary to the public health and safety or general welfare, the proposal that's being asked? I'm seeing, everybody's saying no. And then be hazardous, harmful, noxious, offensive, or a nuisance by any reason of appearance, noise, dust, smoke, odor, or any other similar factors.
Just the bathroom.
Just, I'm saying no except for the bathroom. Oh, okay, Sean, did you
I
say?
think it'd be better than a porta potty.
He even said that.
Yeah.
No, I'm satisfied. And again, this just goes back to Wisconsin Act 67 to make sure that the
Right.
criteria in our ordinance are met and nothing's been presented otherwise, so.
And then Sean, also, if, would the plan commission, if it so deems, recommend not doing the CSM at this point in time? Do you want that in the motion, or?
No, as long as it's in the minutes, I think
Okay.
it's fine.
So note that, Brad, we'll put that in the, by consensus. That
Mhm.
not at this point in time, we didn't feel it was necessary, based upon what the petitioner's asking. So at this point, I'd look for a motion from the plan commission either to, deny the request and state your reasons of denial, or make a recommendation to the village board to approve the conditional use permit and site plan of operation as requested from Jeff Millie's doing business for Edgewood Golf Course and Edgewood North LLC for the properties indicated in the public hearing with the 14 conditions stated in the planner's comments dated March 13th, 2024. I'll make that motion. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
And then, Sean, my question is, should I put some type of caveat on the site plan of operation coming back for, do I have to put anything for the bathrooms?
No, because that's actually in one of the conditions.
Okay.
As part of it, it says it's coming back, so.
Perfect. So I have a motion made and seconded by Commissioner Alex. Discussion from the planning commission. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. We have three plan commission members and 3 voted in favor. So now I'll turn to the village board. Is there a motion from the village board to concur with the recommendation of plan commission to approve the conditional use permit request and site plan of operation as stated in the public notice and printed on the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I'm sorry. Motion was made by trustee Finch and seconded by trustee Solani. Discussion from the board. Trustee
This
Solani?
really is just approving the extension of the clubhouse.
And establishing the new conditional use under the village, since the last one
Yes.
was done by the county, right? That's it. The
Well,
pavilion. Yep.
We knew it.
And the planner stated that it meets all the rest of our,
Yeah, all the rest of the ordinances, and
Ordinances.
those criteria that you just talked about, and it also meets the criteria in Waukesha County's ordinance for golf courses.
right?
Great. Further discussion from the board? Hearing none, I will note for the record that trustee Millies did not participate in the discussion of the village board. And we have a motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll abstain.
I'll note for the record that trustee Millies did abstain from discussion and the vote, and it passed 4 in favor and 1 abstention. So we're done with that. The next agenda item now we have is the notice. I'm going to read the public notice and opening this public hearing. The public hearing at the Village of Vernon Board and Plan Commission will be held on Wednesday, March 13th at 6 p.m. at the Vernon Village Hall located at W249 South 8910 Center Drive in the Village of Vernon to take comments on amendments to Chapter 200 of the Land Division Control Control of the Village Vernon Code. Sean, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know Plan Commission members and board members, you've seen this time and time again, but Sean, can you do just?
Yeah, real quickly, we did talk about it. We introduced some of the changes at the last meeting, and we set the public hearing for today. Essentially, we're looking to update the land division ordinance for a couple of reasons. One, to change everything related from a town to a village and get rid of county references where the county doesn't have any purview anymore. And so there's places where they still review stormwater and they review highway things related to the highways, but anything else is being taken out of the ordinance. There's a couple sections in the ordinance where it talks about improvements, like road improvements and those types of things. We've made some changes to that. Section 213, improvements are talked about, and then in Article 7, improvements are also talked about. I didn't notice that before last meeting, but since last meeting I did. And so I've consolidated those two things because they're basically the same thing. There's some contradictory language there. So everything ends up now in Article 7, so it's consolidated there. Some of the changes that we made regarding improvements, and this has to do with our model developers agreement that we've been talking about, is that financial assurances is going to be raised from 115% to 120%, which is the maximum amount allowed by law. So when someone wants to build a road, they basically have to put up a financial assurance for 120% of the cost of the road instead of 115%. All improvements now are required to be completed prior to recording of the final plat with the CSM, where before we didn't have that mandate. So they can get their preliminary plat approved, they can do other improvements. We don't sign and record the actual document until everything is done. And then another change that we made is the final lift of asphalt needs to be completed within 10 months of the first lift of asphalt, unless the development agreement for some reason would say otherwise. What this is related to is some of the limits that the state statutes allow. Is essentially after 14 months, after substantial completion of improvements, you have to release the financial assurance. So that gives us some time to collect the rest of the money if things go south. And that was something Attorney Macy has recommended as part of this. And then finally, as we talked about last time, you gave the nod to remove any references to residential allotment or residential development control. That was the point system that people had to basically bring in the concept. We evaluate a subdivision plat based on a point system, and then if they got enough points, then they can actually submit their plat for approval. So we've taken that out, allowing our comprehensive plan and our zoning ordinance to dictate density and other things. So that's it. That's all the changes.
Discussion from the Plan Commissioner Board. Discussion, we did talk to Attorney Macy, even though those provisions that Sean changed based upon our developers agreement. I hope I would make the motion to make a recommendation to the village board to I can't. I'm worried about the hearing part, but this will have to still be even though John
review.
helped write it. It still needs legal review. Just be sure.
Right.
I hope everybody. I know we're still in a public hearing, and I keep jumping ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no public here to make comments. Brad, did you receive any letters, emails?
Nope.
I didn't. I got phone calls, but nothing contrary or so. If there's no further comments, then I will close the public hearing. And now we're in item number 9, discussion of possible action on ordinance 2024-7, an ordinance to amend Chapter 200 Land Division Control Ordinance of the Village Code, subject to the public hearing comments, which there were none. So at this point, I would make a motion to recommend to the village board approval of the amendments to Chapter 200, Land Division Control and Development Ordinance of the Village of Vernon Code. Is there a second?
Second.
Second? Oh, I'm sorry, this is Plan Commission.
Oh.
Sorry. That was Commissioner Trustee Millies. Is there discussion from the Plan Commission's recommendation to the village board?
I have a couple of questions. One, I noticed, and this is more of a general question, adding the language at this time to include like digital copies of things like preliminary plats and those types of things. Do we have any, is that part of anything, or is it always hard copies of everything? Are we requiring hard copies as well as digital copies?
I don't know what it currently says, and the only reason, the scope I was given was pretty defined, so I didn't look at all those things. It's not that I would say we couldn't look at them, but I don't know exactly what the
Right, and I know from the building inspection, engineering, I mean, your surveyors, they all prefer digital.
Right, I don't know what it says though. Do you know? Did you look? Do you have?
Well, there are a couple different spots where, and this is probably for the final CSM, we're talking about 16 copies of, those submittal materials, and there are a couple different spots where it talks about submittals. I can look back and jot down which items, and that might be under the final plat. Because obviously you need hard copies for some of those,
Right.
but even stamps from engineers and stuff are all digital anyway, so I don't think we need wet ink on things like that.
Right.
I know that was nice, our last subdivision, they provided every facet of, the paper, they had the paper copy, and then they also had the digital copy, which is really helpful.
And I think staff would appreciate that, because if they follow the paper copy, then you guys are putting them in digitally, and you got legal sheets, you got full-size sheets.
Right.
I think digital, they do it anyways, they prefer to do it, so
I know,
incorporating that.
County on their stormwater does both.
Right.
Whatever they're doing, stormwater grading, everything's gotta be digital and paper. Because I know there's some things Vince likes to look on paper, but it's also nice to.
Well, I think nowadays everybody submits a digital PDF and then some amount of hard copies, whatever the village requires.
Right.
Are you suggesting we take a look at changing some of the language now, Mike?
And I can look specifically, there are a couple of areas where adding it as a means of delivering the finals. Not requiring the hard copies as well. Because in the past, it used to be, well, you have to have a hard copy for each member of the board, you have to have it, and I don't think I've ever received a hard copy of anything. So if that's something,
Yeah.
just pushing paper and having that requirement, it might be a moot point, and it's not an issue until it is an issue, but I think if we're rewriting things, we could maybe relook at that. Or,
Tonight or later? Because this is the public hearing for what's in front of us tonight.
yeah, in the future, to be able to have an idea, something as simple as, how notices are made, and those types of things, kind of bringing everything up to current speed of current delivery of notices and, digital copies of these types of things, I think
We
makes
could
sense.
do that on the application, put the preference, because even on the application, which we never collect, at least we didn't ask people for, I think it says 8
Yeah,
on our application now, and we never, because we made the packets.
Yeah, very rarely we get the full submittals. Most of the time, we get the full submittal. It's from, Newman was the last one that I had where I did get all the full submittal. Since I've been here, I think I have one other, 2 others where it's been like that, but I would agree, we don't need full submittals on it, and if we do find that certain board members or commissioners are requesting hard copies of stuff, we could always put that in there to say, hey, can you give us 4 copies or
Right.
whatever, and I think they're more than obliged. But like you said, on the digital end, it's very nice because of the print, some of the print size, it's just not, we don't have the capabilities to get it.
And I know all the certified survey maps always have the digital format that when we send those to Sean says the surveyor or engineering that's pretty common now, but that's something that we can look in the application process and see.
And then the only other thing is there are a couple spots where cul-de-sacs is cul-de-sac, so if you just search.
That's correct, yeah.
The cul-de-sac.
Cul-de-sac is correct. yeah.
It's French.
Just like mothers-in-law or fathers-in-law, it's cul-de-sac.
Is that the plural?
It is plural.
See?
It is French, but that's.
Mike and I are
the
used to
correct
the single portions. Further discussion from the Plan Commission. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried by unanimously. Now, Jim, we're at the village board level.
I'll make that motion.
I heard that motion. Is there a second to Jim's motion for approval or concurrence with the Plan Commission? That was a second by trustee Newman. Discussion from the village board. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Let's see. We are on, yes, I know John did complete his review of the developers agreement, did he? We gotta check that,
I'll
just to make
check it.
sure.
Yeah,
Because I know we did, even though John wrote it, we did send it, I know Brad, I remember you sending it to
Yeah.
John, just as a double check, because it's an agreement, it's a contract. We'll just have to check to see if John sent anything back. And the development checklist, one thing that we talked about at staff was, John had stated there was some litigation in Waukesha County regarding, on the agenda, a comprehensive land use plan, a zoning plan, and a certified survey map or a plat. And he recommended that we should do each on separate, every, like 3 different agendas, have them.
Yeah, essentially, so it's not presumed that if like say the comprehensive plan and the rezoning are on the same agenda, that it's a foregone conclusion because they're both on the same agenda that you're gonna approve the comprehensive plan. Because the rezoning's on there, so you must be approving the comprehensive plan, so it's a protective thing that,
But there is no guarantee.
there's no guarantee, but he said for judges and courts, it's simpler and it's more defined.
And he mentioned a court case in Waukesha County, and I looked, I could find a court case dealing with the letter of credit and bond in Sussex, and I talked to other professors to see what they never heard of.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the case itself, but that's what he's recommending, and it sounded like the board at our last, when we met as a staff with the board last time, the board concurred that that's the way we were gonna go, right?
Well, that was at staff, so we didn't make any decisions at staff. He just
Right, but
wanted-
that was the direction given, right?
Well, it was to put it on a board agenda. So, I mean, the only bad thing is we have 2 plan commission members that are not here. I don't know if you feel strongly that, plan commission should be in on the discussion, or it's strictly board because it's a policy, it's not a law.
It's more of a legal issue.
Right. But the other thing too, when I talked to John, any other of John's clients, nobody else is doing that. So I don't understand why it's important for Vernon, for us to do it. If it's good for us, why, I just don't understand why, none of his other communities are doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for John. I mean, he'll tell you why it's important. And again, I work for a lot of communities too where it's not done that way.
Yeah, because he specifically said because of the litigation, and Waukesha County was in Sussex. But the only court case I could find is the letter of credit.
Maybe you want to have John prepare something in writing for the board?
Yeah, maybe we should do that, because I'd like to see, because I talked to a couple professors at UWM about that, and they never heard, that where communities are doing, they never heard of the court case, or why plan commissions are doing that separately, so.
Well, the one that makes a lot of sense is the comprehensive plan and the rezoning at the same time, because the comprehensive plan has got, the plan commission makes a recommendation, and the public's hearing is set, and then the board takes action, so you wouldn't want to have that out of order necessarily.
Yes.
But yeah, maybe John can prepare a little memo and just explain his position and why.
Right, and the court
case.
case, because nobody's, I don't know, and I don't know if anybody's researched after our staff meeting. But what we'll do is, we'll email John and ask him to provide some written information in regards to that.
Is that a plan, or is plan commission talking this, or is this just a board side?
Oh, it'd be great for plan commission. It's a board decision, but if you have input,
Is there a specific scenario that we've seen recently, like, I'm thinking of the Cedello type of, is that the type of scenario where we're talking that would be the land, or the comp plan change being, going to the, allowing residential in that zoning district, and then someone applying under that, is that the type of
Yeah,
scenario they're looking at?
I think so. I think it's just the appearance. I think it's the appearance of having more than one major decision that are contingent on each other, that it makes it appear that you've already made your mind up on the first decision, because the second one's on the same agenda.
and I'd like to see the court case, because I'd love to see what the judge said. I mean, as much as, the attorney, I'd like to see the court case also. So we'll get some more information for the plan commission and board, in that regard. So, the next agenda, is that okay with the board members to get some, I'd like to see the written opinion also. The next agenda, I can't put it, it's not on the agenda, under my report. So the next, the minutes from November 8th were in your packet. And there was a lot. Did you see my comment?
Yeah.
I did too.
There was a lot of the conditions were missing, a lot of, I mean, some of them were pretty important conditions
Yep.
but I don't know if I had such a hard time trying to,
Piecemeal it.
no. When you do the track changes, I
Yeah.
did it all, and it didn't save, So I don't know if the board members want, because that came late. I was working on it late last night. Do you want to just table that? And then, I know Brad said he's gonna have all the other ones.
Yeah.
They're coming up soon, so. At this point, we're just gonna, if that, we'll just by consensus hold off on the approval of the minutes by the village, plan commission and board, if that's okay with the commission and the board. And with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. And for plan commission, is there a motion, Jeff and Mike?
So moved.
And Mike, did you second that motion? Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All opposed. Village board, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
Jim, I
adjourn.
heard that. Is there a second to the motion by Dylan? Trustee Dylan Newman, is there a discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Gentlemen, I'm so sorry for keeping you so late.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.